Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hi, this is Tammy Patzer, and I am so happy to introduce you to our guest today, Barb Lanza. And she is the illustrator of more than 40 books, including Little Golden Books, and she's the author of fantasy art instruction books. Barb is from the tri-state area of New York, a little town called Pine Island. Welcome, Barb.
Thank you, Tammy, and good morning.
Good morning. So I'm really excited to talk to you because you have a very unique background. Tell me a little bit about how you got started in creating coloring books and talk about the fantasy art world a little bit.
Oh, very good. Well, my strongest asset as an illustrator is figure drawing. So I've done a lot of books which concentrate on drawing the figure, but I always liked fantasy too. And so I began drawing fantasy creatures, mostly fairies, and I love drawing flowers. So combining my figure drawing with the florals, fairy seemed like a natural theme for me to pursue. So that's what I did. And and you asked about getting into to coloring books. It seems since my figure drawing and my line art was my strongest asset, coloring books just seemed like a natural direction for me to pursue. And so I've been doing a lot of line art lately.
Did you do any commissioned work for books, or did you just one day say, okay, I'm going to start publishing my own coloring books?
Well, actually, I was commissioned to do 4 coloring books by 2 different publishers. And it's only recently, with this recent book, that I decided to go out on my own.
So what is the title?
It's called Fairy Lane, Enchanting Fairies to Color. And a writer friend suggested I include the enchanting fairies part because that word enchanting is in several of my titles. I have the book, the fantasy art instruction book that I did for F&W and Northlight Books is called Enchanting Fairies. Then it was followed by one called Enchanting Elves. I have a color workbook out for F&W Media called Enchanting Fairies. So that word I felt was important for me to keep in this one that I'm doing myself.
So are all of your images hand-drawn or computer-generated? How do you do that?
For my fairy art, I am very fortunate that my daughter had a lot of dance experience, and she poses for me. And I use photographs for the florals. I take my pictures of my own flowers, friends' flowers. So it's a matter of having photographic reference. And I will put it up on my computer screen and sit and sketch in front of my computer screen after I have those photographs. So I don't draw from my daughter's poses. I take photographs.
Wow. So you actually use real images of flowers or your daughter and
absolutely
draw them, and then how do you finalize the process?
Well, first, a lot of my art comes from sitting first and just imagining scenes that I would like to draw and that I think people would like to color. and then my daughter will take poses. She'll be sitting on a chair, but I'll have her sitting on a flower when I draw it. And I imagine what I would like to do if I were a fairy. And so that's where my inspiration comes. What would I like to do? What would other people like to do if they lived in that world? And then I go from there. I'm surrounded by trees where I live, and all I need to do is get my inspiration from my surroundings. But a lot of it comes from the imagination. I also like to look at other people's work and other things that were done, not necessarily fantasy or fairies, but just some good figure drawing, good art, and then see what I could do. Take it from there.
So would you say that the books that you create, they sound a little bit more sophisticated than maybe some of the more simple art? Would you agree with that?
I think so. My style is geared more towards a classical romanticism where things are drawn accurately but in fantastic settings, and I think that's what makes my characters more real. But yes, I love stylized work. I love all kinds of art, but that's what my hand seems to want to draw, so that's what I do.
Do you think that? Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, it's just more of a, I would say, classic, traditional type of drawing that I do, realistic.
So who are your customers? Who do you find really, really love the fairy books and your fantasy books?
I hear from young people, and there's a girl I've been emailing with for years and years, and she's all grown up now. And then I have people closer to my age, some people retired. I would say that fairies are popular with every age group, and I don't know. I don't know if I can pinpoint one particular age group. And I hope I'm not forgetting your question.
No, you're fine. So
okay.
Tell me, I've heard a lot about people talking about the health benefits of coloring books. What do you think about that? Do you think are there really health benefits to sitting down and coloring?
Well, I think they are. I have read reports, I can't quote from them, but I have heard from people and read what people have said about how coloring makes them feel. I have a friend who's a psychoanalyst, and she can't wait to color after an intense day. A lot of people who color are nurses, all kinds of people, and I think that with my work, with the fantasy work, I hope that people want to enter that kind of a world. I like to draw fairies because I feel they live in harmony with nature, and I think people long for that. And so coloring those scenes helps them to relax and to get away from everyday stress. I also think that the more geometric coloring books that are out there are helpful because you can just start to color, not care about what's happening, and just it just takes you away. And who doesn't love luscious color? Some of these coloring, these colored pencil sets are just amazing. You just want to get lost in them.
Do you have any advice about what's the best medium to use? You have colored pencils, markers, crayons, mixed media ink. What do you suggest?
For coloring books, I haven't done I haven't used markers or gel pens or any of that, but I've seen remarkable results. I've used colored pencils, and I would say use whatever appeals to you, and try a few. Don't buy a whole set, but try one or two samples from different mediums, and see what you like best. Some people like to blend their color. I like kind of a pencil look, but there's it's really up to the individual. For me, I would say just try and see what suits your hand.
I like that. See what suits your hand. So if I wanted to color, can you talk a little bit about the best ways to color or to prepare to color?
Well, I find that, everything, when you look at a drawing, when you look at a flower, you see a direction of the petals coming out. If you look closely, you can see the veins, and they all have movement to them, and it's usually in an outward direction. I suggest coloring by following the movement in the object that you're coloring. If it's a petal, you're going to start from one end, usually the inside end, and you're going to gradually work out to the edge of the petal, and then you can use other colors to help show the volume of it. You don't want to always be coloring flat, but you want to follow the shape of the object, and but it helps if it's mostly in one direction. Am I making myself clear?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Follow the direction.
Yes.
The way I would visualize that is follow the direction of life or the growth, if it was something that was alive, like a leaf.
Exactly.
Or a flower.
Exactly. And if it's a gown with an intricate pattern, you would follow the way it drapes. If the figure is sitting, and from, say, the knees down, the fabric is kind of falling to the floor, you would follow that direction. But then there are folds, and they may change directions. So then follow the direction of the fold. And it's amazing how these simple steps bring harmony to the overall flower or garment.
That sounds really intriguing, because I can see that in my mind as you describe that. I can see the gown. What about colors? How do I choose my colors?
Well, the tendency is to just want to use every one of those luscious colors in the set that you bought, but it's best to think in terms of their relation to each other. And it wouldn't hurt to have a little color chart, or to look up a color chart and see that on the color spectrum, red is opposite green and yellow is opposite violet, and use those colors to help your image stand out. You don't want to do a dark blue dress against a black sky, or if you do, you're going to need a lot of highlights, to a lot of white areas to help it stand out. So think about, she has golden hair, and against a blue sky, well, that'll work, he has red hair, and a greenish blue in the background would complement that very well.
That's cool. So where is the best place to color in terms of a place where you can color if you are wanting to color in a relaxed environment? Where would you suggest?
Yeah, I think people can be very tight for space, and it's very hard to have a designated room, a craft room. So some people have taken a closet and converted it into a little writing, drawing area. Or if it's the kitchen table, okay, fine, but clear it off and make that space nice and clean and inviting, and then have everything in order so that it's within easy reach, and you can just concentrate on what you're doing and not be distracted by anything else. It's important to have a clean, open, ready space that invites you to sit down and color.
So before we shift gears to talk about the business of books and coloring books, do you think that the adult coloring book is a fad, or is it here to stay? What is your take on the fact that so many people are coloring?
Well, I think that there are trends which fade, people lose interest. I did some design work for the, what's it called, paper crafting and embellishments, where people would do handcrafts, decorate frames, and make photo albums. And that business has kind of fallen off. And it may happen with the coloring book trend, but as I like to joke, people have invested so much in all of the materials that they're not going to stop until they use their last pencil or their last pen. But joking aside, I can't encourage people enough to color, and I hope they will continue, because I remember being at a little coloring event, and a woman said that she suffered from depression until she began coloring, and it changed her life. So I'd like to think that other people will find it as and be motivated to color in order to deal with whatever stresses in their life, or to just indulge themselves in these other worlds that are fun to them and bring them joy. So I'd like to think that it's going to be around for a while, and I don't think it's even peaked yet.
Well, that's great advice. Keep coloring because it's fun.
It's fun.
On the business side of the coloring book business, obviously, like you as an illustrator, you have worked on more than 40 books and helped probably hundreds of people, if not thousands, over the years who have read these books or seen them. If I wanted to create coloring books or coloring pages, what is your advice? How would I start? How do I get started?
Well, you do what I did, is just what subject matter interests you most? And if it's florals or paisleys or the natural world, fruits, vegetables, whatever it is, have a good look at what else is in the market that might compare to what you're thinking of doing. It's so important to know who your customer is, and then if what you like to do is suitable, you think, to lots of other people, then do your research, do your homework. If you don't draw, be careful of what images you use because of copyright laws, and go from there.
That's really important to be careful about the images that you use. You can't just go Google images and take anything that's on there. I see a lot of comments in groups about people who take other people's artwork and start using them or posting them. And
it's terrible. People. In fact, there was several discussions where people who've been very successful in licensing their art onto products will find that people have taken those products, scanned the art, removed their name, and put their own.
Oh, that's
really
dishonest.
Bad. But I think most people are really excited to buy the book and have that book intact rather than loose pages that they're downloading from the internet. but it's important to educate people, because a lot of people really don't mean to be dishonest. They just are unaware of copyright laws. They think if it's on the internet, it's free, and it isn't. And people like me, who are self-supporting artists, depend on the sale of their work for their living. And it does amuse me that there are those few dishonest people who will spend hundreds of dollars on colored pencils, but do not want to spend $2 on a proper, honest download that an artist may offer on Etsy or someplace. I don't know. I don't understand that. I think the pencil manufacturers don't offer a discount. They're not offering their work for free, but artists have a tougher time because of the internet. But I must say, most colorists are very supportive of the artists and give credit to them, and that's a credit to the colorists that they regard and the artists whose work they're coloring.
So how do you, since you've produced more than 40 books, how do you remain or become so prolific? What would your advice be? How do you keep producing?
Well, Tammy, I'm my own worst critic, and I always think my next effort is going to be better than the last one, and I want to use whatever skill, talent I have to the fullest. So that keeps me going.
Good. Yeah, don't be too critical. I've seen your work. It's gorgeous.
Thank you. I am my own worst critic, though. I really am. But I think that's what makes artists good. We depend on our we can't let it get us down that we're not as good as that artist that we admire, but we have to be critical, and I always say, as a freelance artist, that you have to have a cast iron stomach. You really have to be able to take criticism, and you have to be very critical of your own work if you want to improve.
So before we wrap up, do you have any advice to people who would like to become colorists? I like that. You gave them a name.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if I invented it, but I suggest that once they start coloring, that they go to Facebook and find groups that welcome them to post their work. They can take a picture of their colored page and get support from other colorists out there. It's a really, it can be a very friendly atmosphere. Not all of these groups are friendly, but most of them are. And people just are enjoying the trends so much that they want to share and they want to meet other people.
Great. So you can go online and get involved in some groups, or you can even find groups at local libraries. I've seen very popular at the local library. I was at my library the other day, and the librarian said they had more than 35 people show up to do group coloring, and they were just like, whoa, that's a lot of people.
That's interesting, because we have a wonderful library in my area. In fact, it just won Best Small Library in the entire country in Warwick, New York. And I'm going to give them a call and offer to do a coloring session with my book, and I'm looking forward to that. Maybe I'll jog my memory. I'll do that today.
Good. Well, I'm glad that I helped you to remember to do that. Before we sign off, where can we get more information about you and your books and services?
Okay, well, thank you for asking. On Amazon, this most recent book is called Fairy Lane, Enchanting Fairies to Color. And that will take you to the, if you do a search, you'll find that on Amazon. And then there's a section called the art for the authors, and you can read a little bit about me, and it will list my website. And you can go to the website. It's not completely updated. Hopefully by this weekend it will be. And that's, But if you Google my name, things will come up. But if you're interested in my books, you can go to Amazon and type in my name.
And your name is Barbara Lanza. That is Lanza. So go do that. Thanks a lot, Barbara. I learned a lot from.
Oh, I'm so pleased.
Today.
Thank you, and thank you for celebrating those of us doing coloring books. And I look forward to learning more from you on your show. And thanks for thinking of me. Or thanks for allowing me to talk to you.
This is Tammy Patzer. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.